Hello everyone, I'm Ethan, the founder of Outcast Games. Unreal Engine 5 Early Access is here, and with it, Lumen, Epic's new, fully dynamic, global illumination system. As we know, light doesn't just disappear when it hits an object. It bounces off of it. Other objects nearby are illuminated with the color of the object light bounced off of. Light bounces off of objects and into our eyes. And so that is what Lumen does. Lumen bounces lighting around. Previously, in video games, light didn't really bounce. If light is shining, it hits a pixel and it lights that area of the object up. If that was all that was being done, shadows would be pitch black. So a sort of ambient light is added to the scene that lights up all the shadows. Mixed with ambient occlusion, it can look pretty good, but it isn't complete. Other game engines and games in the past have implemented global illumination methods, such as voxel cone tracing, but all of these methods have serious limitations. There's significant bleed through on edges and corners, and bounces were limited. And then ray tracing came along, which is much more of a simulation of light. But there are limits to ray tracing as well, hardware limitations specifically. Ray tracing graphics cards have not been around for a very long time, and ray tracing deals a huge blow to the performance on many graphics cards, especially without DLSS 2.0 enabled on a NVIDIA card, and especially on AMD cards as well, as AMD has not released Fidelity FX Super Resolution yet. Lumen works on graphics cards that do not have ray tracing cores, because it's not ray tracing against triangles. Lumen performs software ray traces on screen space, against distance fields, and on a voxelized representation of the scene. Lumen is a combination of various global illumination methods. It takes the best of what's out there and combines it together using lightweight software ray tracing. Lumen even supports hardware ray tracing for the traces that it does if you have a ray tracing accelerated graphics card, such as a card from the NVIDIA 20 series, 30 series, or the AMD 6000 series. But hardware ray tracing cores or accelerators aren't required. I'm able to use Lumen on a 1050 Ti, a quite old low-end graphics card. Of course, I get some really bad performance, but my graphics card can do it. And that, in of itself, is an accomplishment. Another limitation that other global illumination methods have had is bounce count. In real life, light will bounce around forever until it runs out of energy, if it ever does. I think it does. Hello, editor Ethan here. In hindsight, yes, it does, obviously. Otherwise, darkness wouldn't exist. Lumen, somehow, is able to continuously bounce light around every frame infinitely, providing a much more realistic result than even ray tracing when the bounce numbers are turned down. Lumen will also interact with normal maps, meaning that you get full resolution, normal detail, and Lumen also solves skylighting as part of its final gather. You've probably noticed if you've been playing around with Unreal Engine 5 and Lumen that even when Lumen is enabled, you need a skylight, or shadows will just be dark. But yet, when you enable Lumen, the skylight changes completely. That's because skylighting is solved as part of Lumen's final gather pass and overwrites the traditional skylighting methods inside of Unreal Engine. Emissive materials didn't used to emit light either. They would light up, but they wouldn't light up their environment unless something like ray tracing was turned on. With Lumen turned on, emissive materials will light up the environment, but there's a limit to how small and how much light an emissive material can get off before noise and artifacts are encountered. While lots of global illumination solutions, such as voxel cone traced global illumination or voxelized global illumination, handled diffuse bounces of color onto color, they didn't handle specular bounces. ray tracing can, and Lumen can too. All light types inside of Unreal Engine 5 work with Lumen by default. Your directional light, your skylight, your point light, your rectangular light, spotlight, everything works just fine. However, light functions only work with a directional light. However, for a light to work with Lumen, it has to be set to movable. A static light is entirely inside of light maps, and that is a feature that Lumen doesn't use. And if you're not using static lighting in your project or making use of light maps in any way, you should definitely go into world settings and force all lighting to be dynamic so that light maps are not generated and loaded inside of memory. There are two places that settings for Lumen can be found: in the project settings and in the rendering settings. To enable Lumen in the project settings, ensure that Generate Mesh Distance Fields is turned on, then set the Dynamic Global Illumination method to Lumen and the reflection method to Lumen as well. Under the rendering settings, you will also find a setting to enable hardware ray tracing if your hardware supports it. Inside of a post-process volume, there are more Lumen settings, specifically the global illumination final gather quality and the reflection quality. Increasing the quality on either of these will decrease noise and overall artifacting, but it will be at the cost of performance. Because Lumen is running in real time and bouncing light around with every frame, hardware will play a big role in determining how fast Lumen bounce lighting updates. Lumen will update to changes in light rotation, position, occlusion, all of that kind of stuff, much more slowly on older hardware and faster on newer hardware. This is just a side effect of how Lumen works. And really, if it didn't update slower on lower end hardware, it just wouldn't be able to work on lower end hardware. So that's something I'm willing to accept, to be able to run Lumen on lower end GPUs. Now I want to do something new with this video. I want you all to go join the Discord and share pictures, videos, clips of things you've done with Lumen inside of Unreal Engine 5. If you haven't done anything with Lumen inside of UE5, then go experiment with it. Play with it, take screenshots, make video clips, and throw them in the Discord server. And then I'll take a bunch of them and I will feature them at the end of the next video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.